Hey everyone, Jammer here from Jammer's Wrestling Magazine Collection. And before I start into this video, I just want to give a big shout out to a friend of mine, Zeke Zanzibar, who actually helped me last night get my picture for the banner for the YouTube channel looking perfect. I had a hard time figuring it out. You know, he came in, he knew what to do, and he got it perfect for me. So a big shout out to Zeke Zanzibar for that. I appreciate it, definitely. All right, today, the video today actually came to me thanks to a comment that I got yesterday on one of my videos talking about Wrestling 93. And of course, that is the magazine that came out 4 times a year. It started in 1983, which I did show that magazine in the Wrestling Premiere Issues video I did. And for those who don't remember what that is, that would be this magazine with Hulk Hogan on the cover. Hulk Hogan, what's holding back the world's strongest athlete? So this came out in winter of 1983. So that was the first one, right? And I remember I showed you it was kind of like their way of kind of competing with the Main Event magazine that was out. So having glossy photos and colored photos and whatnot, right? Like you want kind of like definitely different from the other magazines that Stanley Weston and Bill After put out. Like Inside Wrestling and The Wrestler and whatnot. So they would do this 4 times a year. And unfortunately, I don't have any for Wrestling 84. I only have one for Wrestling 85 too, and it's this one with Ricky Steamboat on the cover. And this also has the infamous 108 stitches in Steve Williams' eye. Sew me up, Doc. I've got a match tonight. You know, it was so this there's a nice bloody photo of Magnum TA with Tully Blanchard. There's Ricky Steamboat. There's Baby Doll. I believe that's her. Yes. I wasn't too sure the photo there was interesting. But yeah, and there's Sylvester Stallone. And there's the Steve Dr. Death Williams story, where he got 108 stitches in his eye. It wasn't really his eye he got the stitches. It was above, you know, the eyebrow kind of thing. Let's see now. So like I said, I have one for 85. In 1986, I actually have all 4. Thankfully. And spring of 86 is the Barry Windham one on the cover. So that's good to have. I was a big fan of Barry, but you know, again, black and white pictures, but yeah, they got color. You know, there's lots of, and the scoreboards are just you know, matches that were happening in the territories at the time. There's an interesting match. Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine versus Dino Bravo and King Tonga. Now, something that annoys me about this one, this magazine, look, some of the stuff is got lined through it, like someone was trying to underscore it, you know, like highlight it or whatever with a pen. So this magazine, and I have a few of them like that, so they're not really the best for reading. They're more so just to have, to say I got them. The next Wrestling 86 is the one with Hulk Hogan on it here. Hulk Hogan, is he strong enough to survive the fallout of WrestleMania 2? So, as we all know, he was. He definitely was, because he held the title for a few more years, but he got through King Kong Bundy. There's the private side of Rick Martel, seeing what he's up to when he's not wrestling or competing. There's a picture of Rick Martel's brother, I believe. The one that, yeah, that's his brother, who passed away, and Rick ended up becoming, you know, carrying on the legacy. There's Lex Luger. So yeah, there's another one, and here is one with Nikita Koloff and Magnum TA on the cover. Of course, you know, what a feud that was. I kind of talked about it a bit in the Magnum TA video I did a few weeks ago. But again, a great feud for Mid-Atlantic, the NWA. Whoa, wow, what a shot there of Randy Savage. Man, he looks like he's straight from the 70s, even though this is 1986. But wow. Hawk and Animal here without the face paint. Of course, that's Hawk. Animal. Hawk was huge. Look at that, right? All natural. No, not at all. And there's a bloody Magnum TA and Nikita. So it's not too bad. This Wrestling 86 is actually interesting. This has Vince McMahon on the cover. A sizzling no-holds-barred interview with WWF head Vince McMahon. It is true. It does have an interview with Vince in here. Oh, look at that. Stan Hansen. That's sweet. Nice photo of Lawler there. Dusty and Flair. There it is, Vince. I want to say, though, yeah, this is just a transcript from Larry King Live. That's all they did. They took what was said on Larry King Live with him and Vince and just made it an article, a story. So you have like the callers on here asking Vince questions and such. So that's kind of neat, you know. Whoever took the time to go through and do that, wow, right? Just wow. Let me move back here a bit. Get this down there. Now, Wrestling 87 is a magazine that is definitely really a favorite for a lot of fans. It's the Wrestling 87, Spring 87, Nikita Koloff. I cry for Magnum TA. Of course, that's when Magnum was in the horrible car accident. They turned Nikita Koloff babyface, and the rest was history, right? Yeah, right there. What an angle. What a storyline. You know, unfortunately for Magnum, I mean, he would have been NWA World Champion, but they tried to salvage what they could by turning Nikita Koloff babyface. Where will these men lead wrestling in 1987? Sting, Lex Luger, Scott Hall, and Crusher Yurkoff, who is Bam Bam Bigelow. So I wonder why he went from Luger to Luger, though, eh? Like, that's interesting. Another Wrestling 87 I have is from Summer 87. And it's got Lex Luger on the cover. Look at that. Now we're Lex Luger. Interview 87 with Lex. So I don't know why the change within spring through summer, but we went from Lex Luger to Lex Luger. And Lex Luger probably a little better, right? There he is, the total package. Looking, everyone always, I always heard he looked like Mick Jagger. I don't know. I remember in a wrestling magazine years ago, like when I was a kid, I read that someone wrote in saying he looks like Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones. It's like, does he? Maybe, I don't know. There's 3 world champions right there: Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and Nick Bockwinkel. So pretty cool. The next one I have is from winter of 1987, and yeah, this one, another Lex Luger one on the cover, but what an awesome cover this is. The 4 Horsemen. You got Tully Blanchard with the NWA World Television title, Lex Luger with the NWA United States Heavyweight title, and of course Ric Flair with the NWA World Heavyweight title. Arn with no title here, but he doesn't care. He's the enforcer. He's doing his thing. A little interview with Jesse the Body Ventura here. The sellout of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. There it is. The 4 Horsemen, success at any price. So, And then the Road Warriors there. So that's a really cool magazine. I really dig that one, always have. I always loved the cover. I remember seeing it as a kid thinking, man, I wish I had that. I do now. It's great. I love it. Now we get into 1988. And 1988, I believe I'm missing one. Ironically, the one I'm missing is the one I had as a kid. It would be from fall of 1988. It had Randy Macho Man Savage on the cover. I have not come across that magazine yet on eBay or in any lots. So it's like my white whale of that year, because I want to get that just to complete the 88 year and to say I have a magazine back I had as a kid, right? But spring of 88, we got Mega Powers. The Hogan Savage Alliance can destroy the WWF. Look at Macho Man there, bloody, busted wide open. So the Hulkster is too. He's got blood coming down on his chest and everything. Just really cool. The career of Sting, a look ahead from 88 to 93. So I guess they're predicting things for the Stinger. And Mega Powers, the Hogan Savage Alliance can destroy the WWF. It didn't destroy the WWF, but it destroyed their friendship, right? That's something. All right. On this cover here, I always liked. Summer of 1988, we get Lex Luger or Sting. You decide who should win the future world champion trophy. Of course, in 1988, they were the Crockett Cup winners. They were the last Crockett Cup winners until Billy Corgan, started it up again a few years ago in his NWA. But, Honky Tonk Man's scouting report overall grade, a B-. Let's see, here they are. You decide. Sting was the first one to win the world title at the Great American Bash, 1990, off Ric Flair. The following year, Lex Luger would have defeated Ric Flair for that world title at the Great American Bash 91. Flair opted to leave the company, of course, go to the WWF, took the NWA world title belt with him. So here we go, a new title, the WCW world title. Lex Luger defeated Barry Windham in the cage to win that title, which I believe was the old, Dusty Rhodes' old PWF Florida title that they put something on it. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was like a name thing, like a plate over that name, so it looks like it's WCW. Like what could they do though, right? They only had like minutes to figure out what to do. Well, by minutes I don't really literally mean minutes, but they only had days or so to figure out what to do after Flair left. Here we see Eddie Gilbert and Missy Hyatt. Now I'm pretty sure these are the same photos from that other photo shoot I showed you of in that Victory Sports Wrestling of Missy Hyatt and Eddie Gilbert. So, yeah. So there's that one. In winter of 1988, we get Hulk Hogan. The Hulk Hogan you never knew, actually, the Beyond the Squared Circle. Look at that. Pretty much looks like he was probably recording No Holds Barred at the time, because he wasn't wrestling. The twin tragedies of Bruiser Brody and Adrian Adonis. Of course, that was a tough one in 1988. Adrian Adonis, of course, died in the car accident. And Bruiser Brody, of course, was murdered. Just horrible. Horrible. I wasn't, aware of who Bruiser Brody was at the time. Should matches be stopped at the first sight of blood? That's interesting. I didn't know who Bruiser Brody was at the time. I would have been 7 years old. I knew who Adrian Adonis was because of WrestleMania 2 and 3 and such, but I had no idea who Bruiser Brody was at the time. I only watched WWF and NWA, and he wasn't in either organization at the time. So I didn't really learn about Bruiser Brody until, in my teenage years about who he was and what he was in pro wrestling. So, but what a horrible, tragic ending for him. Spring 89 now, and we got Sting. Sting's New Year's resolutions: destroy the Road Warriors, destroy Barry Windham, destroy Ric Flair. there's some pretty big resolutions there, Stinger. Of course, he eventually did some of that, right? He didn't destroy Barry. He didn't destroy the Road Warriors, but he did end Flair's title reign in 1990, so there's something. The private side of Nikita Koloff, of course, that's him and his wife, Mandy, who unfortunately passed away of cancer as well. That was a sad time in 1989 when that happened. So that's that one. Summer of 89 now. Here we go. Mega Powers. They can put the pieces together again. Well, they didn't. WrestleMania 5 took place, but look up here, though. Nikita Koloff's Love and Tragedy. So, right there, right? The next issue talks about how Mandy unfortunately passed away. But there's the Mega Powers situation. Let's see if I can... There it is. Mandy and Nikita Koloff's Tale of Love and Tragedy. So... there it is. And it was interesting that, you know, both Mandy and Nikita allowed the pictures and the stories to be said what was going on with her and that whole situation. I remember, you know, like I said, I was 8 years old at the time reading that, and even I knew that was a big deal, that, you know, Nikita and Mandy were letting us in, the fans in, to see what was going on with her and her battle with cancer and everything. So just a rough story there. Emotional, really. Fall of 1989, we get Flair and Turner, Lifestyles of the Rick and Famous. Ric Flair controls Rick Steamboat in that photo, and Ted Turner controls Stars and Stripes. Well, not Marcus Bagwell and the Patriot, though, of course. That was until years later. Let's see, what do we got here? This was during the Flair Steamboat Wars of 89. So, on a side note with that, let's go back to that. My favorite Flair Steamboat match of 1989 was actually the Chi-Town Rumble one, where Rick Steamboat won the NWA World title off Ric Flair in Chicago. It was my favorite one. The Clash of the Champions match was okay. I mean, it was pretty long, right? It was like, I think, an hour long. And there's only so many chops you can take in an hour to watch, right? I mean, Flair was good, but he did have a repetitiveness to him. People say Hogan was bad, but man, Flair could have been just as bad at times with what he was doing in the ring. And of course, the Wrestle War 89 one, which was it was enjoyable too, which they actually had to put on in the middle of the card because they weren't too sure how long that was going to go, right? So they didn't want to run overtime. But yeah, this is a good one. That would be fall of 89. Winter of 89. Now, I had this magazine as a kid. Hulk Hogan, What Sets Him Apart. So, this one is kind of neat, just because I had it. The funny thing is here, if you get a good shot of this, you can see there's like Great Muta spitting out mist, but you see this line here, right? And I always thought it was coming, as a kid, I thought this was coming out of Great Muta's head, like a stream of solid liquid. But looking back, it's Terry Funk holding his branding iron, right? That's what it is. It's all bent because he beat Sting up with it. But I was 8 years old at the time, and let's be honest, the 8-year-old kids sometimes aren't always the smartest. So Hulk Hogan, What Sets Him Apart. But yeah, so this is a cool one. Of course, this photo here is definitely not from 1989. That photo of Hogan there is from like 85 maybe, with the American Made shirt. I'd say it's 85, I'm guessing. Spring of 90, we got Wrestling 90. We got Hogan and Savage again on the cover in the steel cage. Their war began in the 80s. It's continuing into the 90s. And before the WWF World Champion can consider his career complete, he's going to have to put to rest the legend of the Macho Man. Of course, that didn't happen. Ooh, the private side of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty is apparently golfing in his underwear, so there's that. Ugh, Dust. No thanks. The Skyscrapers. They were quite the powerhouse team. There's Mr. Perfect. in the black singlet here. So yeah, you know, very, very cool magazine that one is. Now we got summer 1990, Hogan and the Warrior. Can they ever be friends again? Of course, this going into WrestleMania 6. And at the top, we got exclusive photos of Sid Vicious hospitalized. I believe that's when he had a punctured lung. Yeah, against the Road Warriors, I believe it happened. So, you know, what all's in here? Yeah, there's the photo of it. And what else do we got? Private side of just everyone in general. Just a whole bunch of people they're showing. That's kind of neat. Oh, sorry. Did not mean to hit that. There we go. Sometimes my hand hits this when I move to get the other magazines. I got them to my side here, and plus I am also having a beverage. So right here, look at that. This is what it's brought to you by tonight. Mott's Clamato Caesar original. I call them Clamato Plus. That's my code name for them. But I like the taste of them. And, you know, I don't know what else to do tonight. I figured let's go through these. It's fun. And that takes us to this one here, Wrestling 90. I had this magazine as a kid. Hulk Hogan versus Earthquake, was the Hulkster's farewell tour. Was this? No, it wasn't. Hogan did come back, though they made it seem like he wasn't going to. But man, this magazine is beat to shit. It's also, I should say now, look, gone are the colored photos. We have now hit newsprint style, like Inside Wrestling, The Wrestler, and all that. So gone is that. The last one up there was summer. So in a span of summer to fall, they changed how they did the magazines, which kind of sucks, right? The whole point of these was the glossy paper, the color, you know. So this is Winter 90. Hogan desperately needs a manager. Who should it be? Honestly, I don't really, I mean, you can go through here now, but it's not going to be the same. You're not going to get the color that you got before. But the covers are still cool. Here we got Spring 1991, Wrestling's Top Champions, what 91 has in store for them. You got the Steiner brothers with the U.S. tag titles, Ultimate Warrior with the WWF title, Sting with the NWA World title. But again, you know, all black and white newsprint style. There's Vic Steamboat. That's Ricky Steamboat's brother. He unfortunately never made it to WWF. Never made it. I think he was in WCW for a bit. I want to say but I don't think he did anything worth noting. But yeah, there's another one. Wrestling 91, summer of 91, we got the Super Brawl discussion here. Super Brawl 91. Of course, that was their first Super Brawl. Ric Flair versus Tatsumi Fujinami for the WCW title. Wow, was it? Or was it the NWA title, right? Fujinami won the NWA title in Japan off Flair, and then Flair said he was still WCW champion. It was really, what a weird mess that was. Lex Luger and Sting versus the Steiners. That was for the tag team titles. That was one hell of a match. If you've never seen that match, go watch it now. Just do it. And Sid Vicious versus Elegante, which was what it was. Of course, my favorite match on that show was Barry Windham. Sorry, I read Barry Windham's name there. My favorite match on the show was beautiful Bobby Eaton versus Arn Anderson, where beautiful Bobby finally won the World Television title from off Double A. So that was pretty cool. This one is Fall 91 for Wrestling 91. We get The Undertaker and The Ultimate Warrior on the cover. After flirting with death, is The Ultimate Warrior scared for life? He must have been, because he left, right? SummerSlam 91 was his last match, and he took off. So Undertaker and Warrior never really got a proper ending to that feud. Neither did the Warrior Jake the Snake Roberts feud really start off, right? They kind of pushed Sid Justice into that role, taking Warrior's spot. Now, this is an awesome cover. This is winter 1991. We got Sting and Lex Luger ready for All Out War. We got Sting with the WCW United States Heavyweight title and the total package Lex Luger with the WCW World title. And look at Lex here. He was so big. Like, the guy was clearly juicing hard here. I mean, he looks way bigger than he did in 1990. And he was all puffed up, had that Hogan puff. So, yeah, Hogan passes the torch. Will the Hulkster get burned by Sid Justice? Yes, he did. We all know that happened. Man, these magazines predicted a lot, right? But Sting and Lex Luger ready for All Out War. That would have been at Super Brawl 2 that match took place. And Sting defeated Lex Luger. And Super Brawl 2, by the way, was on February 29th, 1992. So it was on a leap year day. That's kind of neat. Spring 1992, Wrestling 92, we get the Four Horsemen are out, and we get this. WCW has the Dangerous Alliance now. Wrestling's newest and deadliest force, with Ravishing Rick Rude as U.S. Heavyweight Champion, Stunning Steve Austin as the World Television Champion, Larry Zbyszko, Medusa, Arn Anderson, and Bob Eaton as the World Tag Champions, and Mr. Paul E. Dangerously. Look at Paul there. What a smug-looking bastard, eh? I love it, though. What a great manager he was in WCW at this time. Everything that J.J. Dillon wasn't, right? I mean, this group was everything the Horsemen wasn't. And, little side note here about that, Arn Anderson was in 3 stables in WCW/NWA, if you whatever you want to call it. He was in the Four Horsemen. He was in the Dangerous Alliance. And in 1994, he was in the heel group, the Stud Stable, with Colonel Rob Parker, Bunkhouse Buck, Terry Funk, Ming, I want to say was, I think, probably even managing Steve Austin a bit at that time before Steve kind of broke away from him. So yeah, Double A was in all 3 stables, so he was the only one. Summer of 92, we get Wrestling 92 with Sting and Ravishing Rick Rude on the cover, and this looks like it's from a cage match. I'm guessing it may even be Wrestle War, the War Games, right? That's a possibility. I'm not too sure, but yeah, we get Nikita Koloff, who's now back in WCW as a babyface after turning heel a year earlier on Luger and Sting. Vengeance will be his, the Stinger's plan for ravaging Rick Rude. So, Warlord, Barbarian, Hercules, Berserker, tired of being the WWS B team. So that's kind of interesting, right? Kind of saying that they're just kind of there to put guys over, almost, they're saying. That's kind of interesting. Right. Now, we go into something different. We go into Wrestling 93. That Summer of 92 is the last issue. There's no fall and there's no winter. None that I've ever seen. I've never came across it, so I'm going to say they don't exist. I would have came across it by now. I've came across the spring and the summer multiple times. Nothing from fall or winter. But it does return in spring of 1993. Only this time it's called Wrestling 93 Rule Breaker, because it's for the heels, it's for the villains, it's for the bad guys now. This isn't just a book about normal stories. This is for the ones who hate the good guys. And look at that, Stunning Steve Austin choking out Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. We get the Macho Man, Randy Savage, in a bloody mess. That's also from the cover of that one magazine I showed, earlier on. We get Razor Ramon, of course, that's the Diamond Stud here, though. We get Shawn Michaels, and we get an interview with Big Van Vader. This is all for, if you're a fan of the villains, if you're a fan of the heels. So Wrestling 93 in spring started that. In summer of 1993, it would continue with Hulk Hogan on the cover. Hulk Hogan's 5th title reign, a black eye for wrestling. And, that's interesting, right? They're kind of like dissing Hogan, and usually you don't do that on the magazines. Usually you praise Hogan. But I have to say, the one cool thing about this is they did add posters, right? They had posters in the last magazine. Here we got Brian Pillman. We got Undertaker and Yoko, Rick Rude and Davey Boy Smith. Even a Smoky Mountain Wrestling poster of Dr. Tom Pritchard and Sweet Stan Lane, the Heavenly Bodies with Jim Cornette, tar and feathering Ricky Morton. We got this close-up of Steve Austin, which looks like he's ready for his, I don't know, his album cover that he's putting out. There's the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And an interview with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So, that's, again, very cool. The fall of 1993 has Yokozuna on the cover of Wrestling 93 Rule Breaker. It says 4 horsemen, 4 jackasses is more like it. And Yokozuna, he flattened Hulk Hogan, crushed Hulkamania Forever, spit in the face of America, and we love it. The 4 jackasses, that must be about probably, okay, first look at these posters. We got the Beverly Brothers versus Scott Steiner. There's a Spike Pile Driver. We got Mr. Wonderful choking out the All-American Ron Simmons in a World TV title match, no doubt. We got Max Payne versus Kensuke Sasaki. We got Men on a Mission. Now, this is before they were Men on a Mission. This must have been when they were were they the Harlem Knights or something like that? They were a heel team, I want to say, at the time. They weren't baby faces. Interview with Jerry the King Lawler. But I got to find this 4 horsemen thing. Hold on now, because I want to see why they're the jackasses. It's probably because, page 48. It's probably because of who's in it. Paul Roma, right? Yeah, I was right. There it is. Pretty Paul Roma, Ric Flair, and Arn Anderson. And they weren't really the 4 horsemen. There was 3 of them. Ole Anderson was kind of the 4th horseman, and he wasn't even wrestling at the time. I guess the storyline was at Slamboree 93, they were going to have Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and Tully Blanchard come out and do like a thing, because Slamboree was about the legends of wrestling. And Tully didn't show. He didn't come, so they brought in Paul Roma as a replacement and said he's now a horseman. And then they tagged up Roma and Arn together. And Ric Flair was after Barry Windham and the NWA title, saying that's the belt he never lost, which technically it's not really true. The belt he never lost was around Big Van Vader's waist at the time. And it was just really weird, right? And then Arn ended up getting injured. They had Paul Roma turn heel and join forces with Paul Orndorff to form Pretty Wonderful. And then the Horsemen just kind of disbanded without even saying anything. It was that was a really bad Horseman group. And it wasn't because of Paul Roma being in it. It was just because of like the angle and the storylines behind it. It was made no sense, none at all. Now, the last Wrestling 93 is from winter, and only problem is this time it is comic book style. Look at that. Look at that. That's horrible. It's just, ugh. It sucks. Okay, I don't have a problem with comic book style if it was like 1994. If the fact that this continues with these sucks, I have to have it in a different section, because it just doesn't fit with these. I hate that. I freaking hate that. So, Wrestling 93. I want to say that if I recall something, I don't know. I'd have to look in here really good. I'm pretty sure Joey Styles was writing for the Rule Breaker magazine. I don't know why I think that. Oh, yeah, right here. Ric Flair, some man you turned out to be. Look at that. Right there. I don't know if you can see it. Joey Styles. So that Joey Styles, ECW's Joey Styles, was writing for the wrestling magazines. So, posters. We get Ron Harris versus Ricky Morton from Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Johnny Polo, kind of. That's actually Scotty Flamingo, but yeah, technically he is Johnny Polo. Brian Lee, the Mr. Primetime, the Bulldozer, with Tammy Fitch in the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Championship. We get Jerry Lawler versus Bret Hart, which I believe that, I don't know if that is from Memphis or not. I know they had quite a bit of matches in 1993 in Memphis as well. So Brian Christopher versus the Kid. Of course, he's the Lightning Kid here. Look by his tights. Big Van Vader, and an interview with stunning Steve Austin, who had just left the Hollywood Blondes here with Brian Pillman. He was going out on his own with Colonel Rob Parker, becoming U.S. heavyweight champion and feuding with the Natural Dustin Rhodes. There they are. That's all of them that I have, and there's many more. Like I said, I do not have any of the 1984 edition. I need 3 more from 85. There's various ones I need through the years there, but that's a pretty solid collection for what it is, and I'm okay with it for that. It's more than I had at one other time, right? I only had a few of these at one time, so I got some in lots. I was lucky to find some on their own, and I'm content with it. I'm happy that I have this many, especially Wrestling 83. That's the first one, right? That is the first magazine right there. Like that's very cool that I have that. So anyways, in 1994, I do believe they did one issue of Wrestling 94 Rule Breaker. I want to say I'm like 99% with that. I don't want to say 100% because but I swear I saw that. I swear I saw there's a Wrestling 94 Rule Breaker, and then it goes into a different magazine altogether and just becomes, I want to say, or just Wrestling Rule Breakers or something. I remember I had one with the King Kong Bundy on the cover as a kid, and I've yet to find that. I've yet to come across that on eBay. I'd love to own that again, but I just haven't come across it. Maybe one day I will. But I think this is a pretty good collection for what this is. Again, it never went to a bi-monthly or monthly magazine. This was always quarterly. It was always spring, summer, fall, winter. Ironically, the first one being, winter 83. So they started right at the end of 1983. And they were cool, right? And they had the glossy paper, they had color. And then they went over to the newsprint style so was it summer of 1990, I think it was, I said. And then 91 and 92 kept the newsprint. And then 93 at least gave us posters. That's something, I guess, right? We got posters. It's better than nothing. We got some color back in those magazines. But, I mean, turning the magazine Rule Breaker like this was kind of cool. It was something different. And the funny thing is, you have to think back at that time frame in wrestling. In 1993, NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling was getting getting some popularity to it. People were talking about it, and it was because the Philadelphia fans were something special, and they almost made the villains and the heels and the bad guys seem cool. And they were booing the likes of Tommy Dreamer and cheering him when he was getting his ass kicked by the heels like Jimmy Snuka or like the Sandman or the franchise Shane Douglas. So it made sense to have a magazine based for villains, based for the bad guys, right? And I think it worked at that time. I don't know how long the Rule Breaker magazine went on its own after it became its own thing, I guess. I think it may have went to 1995. I'm not too sure. Again, I don't really have a lot of information on that one because I don't know a lot about it. Like I said, when I was a kid, I only had the magazine with King Kong Bundy on it. I think there was one before that had Hulk Hogan on it, and I think he was like his mouth was like duct taped or something. I think I could be wrong. I could be thinking of something else, but I swear I saw that once in a magazine, not like on eBay. If I saw it, I would have bought it if I saw it on eBay, right? If it was, I'm sure it's on eBay.com, but like I said, I really don't want to deal with buying stuff from the USA right now if I can help it. I kind of want to get stuff from the Canada one just because it's easier that way for me with shipping and pricing and everything. But yeah, these magazines had a cool vibe to them. And for anyone out there who's looking to collect them, do so. They are enjoyable. You get a lot of cool pictures, a lot of cool stories. The interviews are great in it. They're pretty detailed. I mean, let's be honest. They actually took the time to transcript the whole Vince McMahon interview with Larry King, right, from Larry King Live for the 1986 issue. That was cool. So yeah, if you want to get them now, they're quarterly. Don't look for months. Put in the spring, summer, fall, winter. Do it that way. And again, I'm like I said, I think there was a wrestling one in '94. I could be wrong, but I thought I did see one once. But I do know I have up until um, winter of '93, so I at least have up to that. Again, it's the comic book style for winter, but what can you do, right? That's Things were changing, times were changing then, and they only kept the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine as the one that looked like this, right? The full one. Everything else, Inside Wrestling, The Wrestler, Sports Review Wrestling, Wrestle America, Wrestling 93, all went comic book style. I guess to save on money. I'm not entirely sure. That'd make the most sense. But all right, there it is. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm glad that the person, I wish I could remember your username right now on YouTube, but I'm sure if you see this, you know it's you, because you're the only one who left the comment to me about, are you ever going to do a Wrestling 93 rule breaker / video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope everyone else enjoyed it. I hope you give this a like, a comment, a share, a subscribe to me, please, if you can, whatever. I'm just glad that I had Zeke Zanzibar, help me get a picture up, a banner up and all that. So my channel looks more professional now, has an image to it. And because really this channel is all about wrestling magazines for the most part, and a little bit about wrestling collectibles too, because I do have those, right? I showed that in that video, a few videos of the figures I have and whatnot. So if any of you out there had any of these magazines, let me know. Leave a comment about that. If you wanted any of these, let me know. What was your favorite if you had one? What was one that you always wanted to have, you never got as a kid or a youngster? For me, like I said, it was that Four Horsemen one with Flair, Luger, Arn, and Tully and JJ on the cover. I always thought that was cool when I used to see that in magazines for back issues of these, and it's cool that I finally have it now. So, all right, I think I took enough of your time. This is the longest video yet I've done. We've reached like over 40 minutes, so that is impressive on its own. So I hope everyone enjoys it when they watch this, and until I do another video, I'll talk to you later.